Welcome to Joy, Love, and Abundance, designed to lift up and explore the people, organizations, and experiences that create a more joyful, loving, and abundant world. Join hosts Rodney Eric Lopez, Patrice Tanaka, and Cyrus Webb as they share stories and insights that will inform and inspire you. Enjoy today's broadcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Joy, Love, and Abundance, where we try to give you a little something that will be inspiring for you as you're going throughout your week, that will show you the importance of not only cultivating joy, love, and abundance in your life, but sharing that with others. I'm Cyrus Webb. We're joined by my friends and partners in good crime, Patrice Tanaka and Rodney Eric Lopez, this week. Hello to the two of you.
Hello.
Hello, Cyrus. Hello, Patrice.
Yeah.
It is always great to be able to catch up, and it's funny, depending on how our audience is listening to this, they're either saying goodbye to May or welcoming in June, but either way, the year, guys, is flying by, and that is the crazy thing about this, for sure. I know that all of us have been doing in May, but Patrice, you had a really, really cool question that you kind of posed to the group. Why don't you share that with our audience?
Yeah, each week we come up with a topic for our podcast, and our podcast, of course, is about joy, love, and abundance. And it just occurred to me that, we should talk about how we create more joy, love, and abundance in our lives. And the three of us, I know, do this in large part by being of service to others. So I thought we could just focus on the whole idea of creating more joy in our lives by being of service to others. So anyway, so the three of us really love this idea because it was so obvious that we didn't even think that this could be a subject for one of our podcasts.
Yeah. And, Patrice, it's the funny thing because I think you're right. In our respective fields, I think we all are of service in so many different ways. And I have to tell you, and I share this on social media sometime, and I'm sure you guys, would agree. I mean, I'm my happiest when I am able to serve. Because, I grew up, especially with my grandmother, being told, of course, do what you can for others. There's a scriptural principle of, there's more happiness in giving than receiving. And for myself, I'm very grateful for the fact that I grew up in a household where people love to share. We grew up in a neighborhood where people, if you didn't have something, people were there to be able to help. And I think for myself, that has definitely helped me in my life to be definitely more full of joy, love, and abundance, because I understand that it's not about everything that I can get. In fact, I made a post. It's so ironic that you brought this up. Today, Patrice, I made a post just yesterday saying it's not enough for me to succeed. I want other people to succeed because I think, I realize that the world is so much bigger and better when we all can kind of be lifted up. So for myself, that's what I try to do. I look for ways, even in business, just to be able to show people by example what they can do, but also the importance of knowing that if they're truly doing something they're passionate about and being of service to others, that's going to come back to them.
Absolutely. In fact, sharing joy, I think, creates more joy for yourself and others. So, and I was looking at I read this book, the Book of Joy, that was co-authored by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, 4 or 5 years ago. And I love this book because it's all about joy. And the Dalai Lama says that, in fact, taking care of others and helping others ultimately is a way to discover your own joy and to have a happy life. And he said in another quote, joy is a reward, really, of seeking to give joy to others, which I totally agree with. And in fact, my own life purpose, which I've shared before, is simply to choose joy in my life every day, to be mindful of that joy and to share that joy with others. So it's choosing joy, being mindful of it, and sharing it with others. And for me, it's kind of rinse and repeat every day of my life. And I've been living this purpose for the past 20 years, and it really has brought a lot more joy into my life. And a lot of that is because of sharing joy. I'm a big believer in we're not put here on earth just to consume resources and take up space, that we must, leave the world a somewhat better place for our having been here. So sharing all the joy that we're fortunate enough, each of the three of us, to receive has been the way that we have, each of us, lived a more joyful, loving, and abundant life. And it's very clear to me that that's, the way we try to live our lives. And frankly, it's the reason that I wanted to be able to come together with the two of you, Rodney and Cyrus, on a regular basis, just to reinforce and create and share more joy, love, and abundance, and put it out into the world. So I'm glad we're focusing on this today.
Right, exactly.
Rodney, what about you?
I think that service is one of the ultimate joys in life. There are times when service can feel difficult, particularly if the thing you are doing service for is a difficult situation. But more often than not, service really is a source of joy. Martin Luther King, said that anyone can be great because anyone can serve. And for me, what that means is that acts of service don't have to be grandiose. They don't have to be public. They don't have to be world-changing. They just need to be genuine, and they just need to lift someone else up. They just need to help someone who is in need. And the need can be great, or the need can be small. I think of people who do. I'm gonna use one example that I would see all the time in schools. For instance, joining a PTA is something that parents have been doing for decades. Oftentimes, a parent will join a PTA, a parent-teacher association, initially out of self-interest to see, what is going on in the school that affects my child. What happens more often than not, though, is that those acts of service start to expand as you see that your volunteering, your time that is spent in the evenings at meetings or on weekends supporting a fundraiser or supporting a community cleanup or something is really small acts of love that ripple beyond just your child's classroom, but to the larger community. And that's one of many acts of service, sort of large and small, that people can engage in. Checking up on a neighbor who's sick, volunteering for a community cleanup. These are all things that any of us can do that ultimately bring more joy into our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's such a great point, Rodney. One thing you said that it really sticks out to me, and I hope our audience gets this because it's such an important point. It does not have to be we're not Oprah. We can't get everyone a car who needs a car. We can't do all of these big things that some people can do, but we can do the small things. We can be able to help someone get a ride somewhere, or to offer gas money for someone who we know may need it, or because those little things, it to them can make such an impact. And I hope our audience realize that it's not, you don't have to have a large megaphone in order to make a difference, and knowing how good you can feel. And one thing I love about what you all have done in our second parts of the show over the past several weeks is you've shown how one person can make such a big difference and the joy they can get from that. Yes, sometimes they get recognized for that, but they're not doing it for that reason. They're doing it because they see a need and want to feel it, and that gives them some joy. And I think we all would agree. I think that's what we want for our audience, to be able to know that they can be able to have that same type of joy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think, just because we're talking about small acts of service. I'm really appreciative of my neighbors. If my wife and I go away for a weekend, we have a cat, and that cat needs to be fed while we're away. And we have really loving neighbors who are very generous with their time and say, you all go away, you enjoy the weekend, we'll come over and we'll feed the cat for you. And that's a very small gesture, but it's a huge gesture because it means that we can go away for a couple of days and know that our pet that we love very much is being well taken care of. And that's one of those everyday acts of service that seem small on paper, but make a huge difference. And so, anyone can be of service in that way.
And I love this other quote by Desmond Tutu, who's one of the co-authors of the Book of Joy, to that point, Rodney. He said, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. I love that idea, right?
Yeah.
Anyone
That's a great quote.
Yeah. So.
And it's a great reminder for our audience, again, do what you can and know that it's not just giving, that you're going to get something from it. And it's something, again, that sometimes you can't even, put a price on. I think that's the great thing. I want to say for those who are just tuning in on the radio dial or through our podcast, you're listening to Joy, Love, and Abundance. I'm Cyrus Webb. We're joined by Patrice Tanaka. You just heard her there, as well as Rodney Eric Lopez. We're talking today about a great topic that Patrice brought to the table, and that is how we can create more joy, love, and abundance in our lives by being of service to others. And, of course, we want to know how you all can be able to apply that. We'd love to know your thoughts, so feel free either with the podcast, share your thoughts, or if you're joining us on a social media site, write your comments. We would love to be able to see those. It brings us now to the part of the show where we like to share things that we have found throughout the week or experienced throughout the week. Rodney, you were telling us about a great story. Why don't you share that with our audience?
Thanks, Cyrus. I love stories that, bring different groups together, groups that you might not think about or you may not see having a natural fit. And I saw a story this week in the Stanford Social Innovation Review that talked about what it means to bring two different communities together on campuses. So, for instance, in campuses all over the country, there are graduate students who, because they're carrying lots of college debt and graduate school debt, can't find affordable housing near campus. Also, there are senior citizens who may have housing that's available, and they can't find tenants, and they can benefit from the extra income. And so there's a wonderful initiative coming out of New York University, particularly the New York University Center for Health and Aging, that's looking at this situation. And they've created a pilot program that began in 2018, and they're 5 years into it right now. And what they're trying to do is connect graduate students who need affordable housing with senior citizens who have housing to offer at a discounted rate. And so in addition to the economic benefit to both parties, what they've also found is that both parties benefit from the social interaction that allows them to just benefit from each other's company. And the senior citizens also love having a connection to a university, to an institution like a university, because it helps them to be connected to resources that they may not otherwise have had access to. And I think that this is a wonderful way of abundant thinking, this idea that different members of our community, different segments of our community in a neighborhood could find ways to have mutual benefit. And all that's needed is a little bit of creativity and a little bit of elbow grease, because there is work that has to be done on the policy side to make sure that this extra income doesn't detract from any benefits that the senior citizens might be eligible for, and also to make sure that there are good fits between the students and the elders. But when it does work, it works beautifully. And so as a result of this work out of New York University, other universities are looking to follow suit and find ways to bring these communities together for mutual benefit. So that's a story that's out in the latest issue of SSIR, and I just thought it was a great story.
It is a great story, and again, it's a great example of kind of what we've been talking about here even already today, and how we can make a difference, and the impact and the lasting impact, Rodney, that's going to make in the lives of others. I think that's the big thing for me that I take away from it.
Absolutely, it's just it's a creative solution to to a problem that many people are having, and it's just good to see that people are thinking creatively, thinking abundantly. It's two groups that have strengths that can mutually benefit each other. And again, small idea, really big results.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Well,
I love it.
Patrice, you had a very busy May, but you wanted to share with us something that happened as we're closing out the month of May. What's on your mind for this week?
Yeah, so many good things are being done. And in fact, one of my friends, a woman named Ross Ellis, started a nonprofit 15 years ago called STOMP Out Bullying. She herself was an abused child, and she wanted to create a world where children weren't bullied and abused. So STOMP Out Bullying just celebrated its 15th anniversary, and I went to their online gala Wednesday night, and it was quite a celebrity-studded event. It's really amazing to me what she's been able to do. Hoda Kotb was the MC. The New York Jets were one of the honorees. Taye Diggs was another honoree. Sting performed. His wife, Trudy Styler, is an ambassador for STOMP Out Bullying. So there are a lot of wonderful people involved and who are supportive of her nonprofit STOMP Out Bullying. And they've helped over 5 million people, 5 million students resolve bullying and cyberbullying situations over the past 15 years. And actually, through their various support networks, have saved a total of 6,000 lives. So sometimes young people call these hotlines and they're on the verge of committing suicide because they're so miserable because they're being bullied or cyberbullied. So, the helplines that STOMP Out Bullying has created have helped to save 6,000 lives. So she's done a lot of good, just one person doing her little bit of good in the world. And, if we accumulate all the little bits of good that everyone is doing, as Desmond Tutu said, it's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. So, do something, and, it will be a way of doing your little bit of good in the world.
Yeah. What a cool thing. And again, a great use of online platforms, right? I mean, just having a thing there, that in itself is a big deal. That is awesome, though. But again, showing kind of with the theme of the show, how one person can make a difference. The thing that stuck out to me, is no surprise to our regular audience, it's a book. I read a lot of books, and I read a brand new book by someone who I actually interviewed on my radio show 10 years ago. She's now out with her new book. It's called Real Resilience, How to Thrive in the New Normal Once Upon a Pandemic. The author's name is Selwa Babawi Hamadi. And Selwa's book is about the time of the year that we all just lived through and how we can be able to still survive and thrive, and keys that helped her that she wants to help other people with. And one of the big things, guys, that she talks about in this book, Real Resilience, that is so big, is the importance of watching your self-talk. How we can sometimes doom ourselves by the story that we tell ourselves or we choose to believe are possible. Like if we say, my life is over, my best days are behind me, there's no way I can get back what I've had. Just like, you start living that reality that you're speaking. And she had to learn that that she had to learn, to be able to be positive in her thoughts, positive in her words, and in her interactions with people, which also meant cutting some people off who were not positive, who were being all doom and gloom. And what she talks about in the book is it's not being Pollyannish, but it is about realizing that we do all have our part to play, and we have to start with ourselves. And that's what she chose to do, is to realize that you have to look for ways to turn negative stuff into positive, to really be careful with that little voice in your head, and not to allow the bad things to make you think that God has forgotten you, and that you can't be resilient. And I think that is such a great message for all of us to keep in mind, because it is easy, right? I mean, when you see things happening, and we've seen a lot this year. We've seen a lot with injustice, unfortunately with hatred, and it's very easy to say, the world is doomed. But I think the three of us are proof of the fact that we can choose to go a different path. And that's something that everyone can do. And I think that's the cool thing that Selwa, again, writes about in the book. Again, it's Selwa Babawi Hamadi is her name. And the book is Real Resilience, How to Thrive in the New Normal. I really enjoyed the book. It was great to catch up with her after a decade from the last time that she was on the program. So I definitely invite you guys to take a look at that. I want to say before we close that I look forward to this time with you guys every week, not only because I consider you all to be great people, but because I love these positive conversations and conversations that are actionable, that people can be able to get something from and to hopefully be able to use. I want to ask you all before we leave, not to put you on the spot, but I think it's an appropriate question. I mean, as you kind of reflect, as we're saying, goodbye to another month, 5 months into this broadcast now almost, Rodney, what has it been like for you to kind of reflect on the conversations we've been able to have here?
What I appreciate is that it means that every time we come together, it is dedicated time to focus on something positive and uplifting, so that even if I've got a week that's stressful and difficult, I know that there's going to be an hour where I'm going to be in good conversation, healthy conversation around things that are going on that are not just good in my life, but are also good in the world. And just like any other practice, whether it's a yoga practice, a meditation practice, a workout, getting together with friends for a nice meal and conversation, having that regular practice is good for your soul. And so it's been really nice to know that at least once a week, there's going to be some positive vibes happening in these conversations. So I appreciate having the space and the platform to be able to do so.
Love that. And Patrice, you mentioned it. I mean, this was your baby. I always give you the credit for this because, I mean, honestly, I don't believe it would have happened. Maybe it would have, but I don't believe it would have happened without your kind of bringing the band together. What has it been like for you to kind of reflect on, as we're now almost halfway through the year?
Well, the title of our show is Joy, Love, and Abundance. And that is the focus of this time that we spend together every week. And by focusing on what we want, to have more of in our life, this is how we manifest those things. So I want to always be focused on joy, love, and abundance, and not the negative self-talk that you just mentioned earlier, Cyrus, because it's easy to focus on the things that went wrong or the hurt that you feel or the revenge that you want to enact on someone else. But it's better to use that energy and focus on joy, love, and abundance, because this is really what we want our lives to be filled with, right? So for me, it's an opportunity and a time every week to focus on joy, love, and abundance. So thank you, and thank you to our listeners. We appreciate your hanging in with us for the past 5 months. It's been a joy for us, and we hope that that you've experienced some joy, love, and abundance by hanging out with us. Thank you.
I totally agree with that, and I want to definitely mirror what Patricia said. It's been my pleasure to be a part of this amazing show with these amazing individuals, and also sharing the platform with you, our listeners. And it keeps me mindful of the importance of recognizing the good. Again, it's not saying that bad things do not happen in the world, that there are not things that need work, because there are. But when we kind of focus on what we talk about a lot on this program, and that is how you can make a difference, how one person, by their decision to act, can make a difference, I think it really shows us all what's possible. So as we try to focus on more joy, love, and abundance in our lives, we encourage you all to do the same. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk soon.